Chapter 7. Alexander Libri. The following day, Hoggy had to stay in school after classes to make up a science lab she had missed the week before. But, as soon as that tedious task was over, she ran to the city library. She found Scooter in the music room, squatting on the floor between bookcases, with a measuring tape in his hands. Upon noticing Hoggy, Scooter grabbed her by the elbow, and pulled her out of everyone's earshot, behind a bookshelf loaded with the scores of violin concertos.
"I think you were right, Hoggy,"
he whispered excitedly.
"I mean, you were right about the secret room. I've been taking measurements of the library all afternoon, and I've discovered something very strange."
Scooter hung the measuring tape around his neck, and pulled a little notebook out of the pocket of his pants.
"First, I measured the length and width of all the rooms and lobbies, and the thickness of the walls on every floor, and added them together."
He pointed at a neat row of numbers in his notebook.
"And then I measured the outside of the building. And you know what? The inside and outside measurements do not match."
Scooter paused, allowing the news of this amazing discovery to sink in Hoggy's head.
"In fact,"
he then carried on,
"we are missing between 100 and 300 square meters on each floor. That's an awful lot of empty space." "Wow!"
was all Hoggy could say. She was not even sure what impressed her more, the possibility that there was indeed a secret room hidden in the library, or the way in which Scooter had proved it.
"That's pretty cool. How did you think of this?"
"We had a similar homework problem in maths class 3 weeks ago," Scooter explained. "We had to calculate the area of the empty space in a living room to see if a piano would fit." Hoggy could not remember the maths problem.
"It must have been the one I didn't turn in,"
she realized with some regret.
"Good work, Scooter."
"Wait, there is more," Scooter carried on. "How many floors are in this library?"
5.
"You are sure?" This time Hoggy took a couple of moments. Still, she could not think of any reason to change her answer.
5,
she repeated.
"plus the basement."
Scooter smiled smugly. "Come," he said. "I want to show you something." Hoggy followed Scooter out of the library, and across the busy street. Here Scooter stopped, turned around, and pointed at the top of the library. "There," he said. "Do you see it?" Hoggy tilted her head backwards, and looked at where Scooter's finger was pointing. Underneath the windows of the library's 5th floor, all around the building, was a wide band of plaster moulding, shaped as oak leaves and acorns. Along the top edge of the moulding, a dozen pigeons were perching.
"What exactly am I looking at?"
"There, under the white dove." Hoggy examined the greyish band of oak leaves once again.
"I don't see anything."
But just then she noticed a couple of meters underneath the white dove a tiny round window.
"It must be at the attic."
"Hoggy, we've been to the attic," Scooter reminded her. "It has no windows. Besides, the attic would be higher, above the 5th floor." Hoggy frowned.
"Well, if this isn't the attic, what is it?"
"It is a 4th and a half floor," Scooter replied triumphantly. Hoggy was so astonished she was completely lost for words. "And so," Scooter summarized in the meantime, "we have over 600 square meters of space, and an entire extra floor, hidden somewhere inside the library. I think you are absolutely right about the secret room, Hoggy." Hoggy was still gaping at the tiny window hidden amid the plaster foliage.
"I can't believe nobody noticed it before,"
she said. "Somebody must have noticed. They just did not realize it was important."
"But how'd you get in there?"
"That is exactly what we have to find out." "You're right about the blueprints," Scooter said later that day, when he and Hoggy were sitting in the kitchen. For a good couple of hours now, the two friends had been poring over the numerous photographs of the inside and outside of the library, which Scooter had taken during his investigation. So far, the young adventurers had been unable to piece them together.
"If we had the blueprints, we'd know where empty spaces and fake walls were," Scooter remarked, "and then we could look for a secret door in those places. As it is, that door can be anywhere in the library. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Tomorrow, after school," he then said, "I'll go to the Museum of London and see if they have the blueprints." "What about me? What am I going to do?" "You go to the library and see what you can learn about Alexander Libri." "Whatever for?" "Because the Museum of London may not have the library's blueprints," Scooter explained patiently. "In that case, we'll need a list of people who may have copies. The architect's associates, his family, friends." "How do you know all this?" "It's called historical research. Mrs. Hamilton told us about it in one of her classes. She told us about the Museum of London and the archives. She also taught us how to get useful information out of any document, a newspaper, a letter, even a grocery receipt." "I don't remember any of this."
Scooter paused for a moment. "That's because you were doing your maths homework in that class." Just then the apartment door opened, and in came Aunt Michelle and Prospero.
"Hello,"
Aunt Michelle said cheerfully.
"Hi,"
Hoggy echoed. "Good evening, Miss Clares," Scooter said.
"Scooter, you have to stop calling me Miss Clares," Aunt Michelle said. "You make me feel old. Will you stay for dinner?"
"I'd love to, Miss Ma'am," Scooter replied. Aunt Michelle smiled, and disappeared in her room at the end of the corridor, while Prospero brought into the kitchen 2 large grocery bags. "Hello," he said.
"Hi,"
Hoggy grunted, not taking her eyes off the photographs. After a short and awkward pause, Scooter introduced himself. "I'm Scooter. Hoggy and I go to school together." "Nice to meet you, Scooter." Prospero shook the boy's hand vigorously. "I am Prospero."
"Hoggy says you work at Paducci's."
"I do."
"I've heard your new show is all on water."
"Yes, it is."
"How do you do it? That arena is only a few inches deep."
Prospero smiled. "It just seems that way. Underneath the floor, there is actually a very sophisticated mechanism that can turn the arena into a 4-meter deep pool."
"Wow!"
Prospero nodded. "And the stage set is made to look like the streets and canals of Venice. We even have real gondolas."
"It sounds amazing."
"It is amazing," Prospero confirmed. "But why won't you come and see for yourself? I can get you both front-row seats."
"We'd love to, wouldn't we, Hoggy?"
Hoggy shrugged, and made a sound that could be interpreted as yes, just as easily as a no. Just then, Prospero noticed the photographs. "What are you doing?"
"We're investigating a mystery,"
Hoggy explained, scooping the photographs off the table to make room for groceries. Prospero sounded intrigued. "And who's been murdered?"
"It's not that kind of mystery. It's more of a puzzle."
"I see. And how is it going?" "So far, not very well," Scooter admitted. Suddenly he had a thought.
"Prospero," he said, "Paducci's is very old, isn't it?"
Prospero nodded. "Giovanni Paducci, the great-grandfather of our director, started it more than 100 years ago. I don't suppose he's still around. Oh, no. But his son, Paolo, is."
"Really?"
Scooter perked up.
"Do you know him?"
"Sure."
"Can you ask Paolo something next time you see him?"
"What do you want me to ask him?"
"Can you ask him if he knows anything about Alexander Libri?"
"Who is Alexander Libri?"
"He was an architect. He lived in London about the same time Paducci started the circus. I thought maybe he'd heard about him."
"I'll ask," Prospero promised. After dinner, Scooter said good-bye to Prospero and Aunt Michelle, and headed home. Hoggy walked him to the bus stop. The evening was cold, although the rain had stopped and the sky was clear.
"Your aunt's new boyfriend seems nice,"
Scooter said. Hoggy did not reply right away, but after a few silent moments she admitted grudgingly,
"He is."
"But you still don't like him?"
"It's not a matter of liking or not liking him,"
Hoggy said rather curtly. "Whatever do you mean?" In response, Hoggy just sighed. There were things in life Scooter would never understand. "Do you think they'll get married?" Hoggy pondered this possibility for a moment.
"They might."
There was no cheer whatsoever in Hoggy's voice, and Scooter asked, "You don't want them to?"
"Sure I do,"
Hoggy replied.
"I just wonder—"
She fell suddenly silent, and stared at the map of the bus's route on the side of the bus shelter. "You wonder what would happen to you?" Scooter finished her sentence. Hoggy nodded. "No news about your mom, then?" Hoggy shook her head. She was very hopeful for the first few days after finding Linda's letter, but as time went by, her hope began to fade.
"I don't know what I was expecting,"
Hoggy confessed grouchily.
"She's been gone for 4 years. She's probably never coming back."
Scooter wanted to say something at this point, but changed his mind at the last moment. They were both quiet for a while. "What could happen to you?" Scooter asked at last.
"They'd probably send me to another foster family,"
Hoggy said casually.
"I'd probably run away. And then they'd send me to one of those places which are called schools, but are actually prisons for kids."
Scooter shivered. He never had to live with people other than his parents, and even though he only saw his father on week-ends, and his mother in the summer, he always had a safe and comfortable place to which he could return every evening. This place was his, and nobody could ever take it away from him. "Maybe they'll send you to a good foster family this time," he said hopefully.
"You don't get it, do you?"
Hoggy had a sudden bout of frustration, anger even.
"There are no good foster families. Even the best of them are 10 times worse than just being completely alone."
She took a long breath, trying to calm down.
"They are not bad, those people, but they just try too hard to mend you, and it doesn't occur to them that maybe you are not broken at all. There is nothing wrong with me."
Hoggy's anger was gone as suddenly as it had come, and now she felt strangely empty.
"So what if I don't understand maths, or don't like history? Millions of kids don't. It doesn't make them criminals. But those people, they treat you just like a criminal. They think that it's somehow your fault if you don't have your own family who can take care of you. They always watch you, always check what you're doing, where you're going, who you're talking to. It's like they're afraid of you and can't wait for you to be old enough to get out of their houses. And when they treat you like this, you too can't wait to get out of their houses."
For a few moments, Scooter just stared at his friend, utterly stunned. "Is this why you ran away from all those foster homes?" Hoggy nodded. After a while, she said broodingly,
"I like Aunt Michelle. She drinks a little and can be very sad, but I still like her. She doesn't treat me like a little kid. She doesn't spy on me or ask stupid questions. And when I have bad grades, she doesn't make me feel any worse by telling me that I am stupid or don't try hard enough. I'd rather live with her than anybody else."
The sound of a powerful engine reached them just then. A moment later, a bus appeared from behind the street corner.
"If I could just prove to Aunt Michelle that I'm not a burden," Hoggy said, "then maybe she would keep me, even after she and Prospero got married. What do you think?"
"I think anyone would be glad to have you, Hoggy," Scooter replied.
"If I could just show her that I can earn my own keep. I already do a lot, laundry, shopping, and cooking, and I clean my room and the kitchen, and I earn money too."
She reflected on her last sentence.
"If I could earn more money, if only we found the mirror and got paid £1,000 each. £1,000 is a lot of money for Aunt Michelle and me, Scooter. It would prove to her that I'm not a burden."
"Nobody thinks you're a burden," Scooter assured her.
You don't need to prove anything to anyone. If Aunt Michelle is going to keep you, £1,000 is not going to make any difference to her. If—" Hoggy felt the emptiness inside getting so big, it actually sucked the air out of her lungs. "If— But that's just it, Scooter." She drew her angular-featured face close to Scooter's. "I can't have any ifs and maybes. I can't go away and live with another foster family. Not after what I've had here. Aunt Michelle, you, the library, the bookshop. I can't go away." Scooter looked his friend straight in the eyes. He never really thought until that evening what his own life would be like if Hoggy were to disappear suddenly from it. Now he realized that it would be quite bleak. No one to share books and ideas with, no one to talk to about his dreams and fears, no one to make him do wonderful and exciting, even though sometimes stupid and dangerous things. Not to mention that without Hoggy, the Regent Park's bullies would make his school life utter hell. "You won't have to go away, Hoggy," he said, with sudden and absolute confidence. "We'll find the mirror, and get paid the £2,000, and you will stay here with Aunt Michelle." "You really think we shall?" "We shall," Scooter promised. "We'll go through that library with a comb and find the blasted book, even if I have to skip every single lesson and not do my homework for the rest of the year." "You'd do that?" Hoggy herself would drop out of school tomorrow if she could get the social services off her back. But Scooter had always been a model student. For him to make such a promise was a great deal. "I totally would," Scooter said. Just then, the bus stopped by the shelter and opened its doors. Scooter placed one foot inside the bus, but then he turned around and extended his hand to Hoggy. "It's a pact." Hoggy took Scooter's hand and shook it.